In this video, we're going to be taking a look at what Bitcoin did over the last 24 hours. As you can see on the right side of my screen here, that Bitcoin is down 1,000. I've got this right now on a daily chart. You can see we wicked up really high. So the question is, what happened? If we go down to a 1 hour chart, you can really see the volatility intraday. We had during the basically around 12:05 Pacific time, 3:05 Eastern time, you had Bitcoin sitting around this resistance level. Elon Musk came out and talked about being able to purchase Bitcoin, purchase a Tesla, with Bitcoin over the next 4, 5, 6 hours. You saw Bitcoin jump about 5% to the top. And then what's this, beginning at about 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern time, you've had basically a 7+% decline in the Bitcoin price. Other than a little jump around the middle of the trading day, it's been on its way down ever since. Had a massive sell down right around the time that the markets closed, the stock exchanges closed, came back up a bit, but has been trading down ever since. And we're at some pretty critical levels. I'm going to go to the 8-hour time frame. As you can see, I'm gonna highlight a couple of trend lines that I had in here, just to kind of give you a visual of some things I've been tracking. To start out with, we have this trend line that I just highlighted that has been ever since close to the bottom of the 30+% pullback that we had starting at the beginning of January, going until the end of January. And it has provided support not only from this pullback, but also from the pullback beginning at the end of February into like the third or fourth week of February. During that week, we had about a 26% pullback, provided support. Right now, it's providing support. It was providing support, I should say, but now it has broken through that support, and so we're at actually a pretty critical level. We have a pretty good support level right here that we are just touching and crossing below. At about 52,680. You could see that it was resistance here, broke through, came down, was resistance again, broke through, tested a support again on the initial pullback after the all-time high, and we've been kind of bouncing about it ever since. And now, as I said, we're breaking below. In fact, just in the time that we've been recording here, it's fallen almost another 1,000. So a lot of volatile price action. So there's a couple things that I want to show you from these charts. If we come back to our all-time high from beginning of January and then the 30% pullback, you can see we have this wedge pattern that's created. And on the initial pullback, and then we sell off below and capitulate, consolidate, and then slowly work our way up. And then you notice that what we end up seeing is, let me get rid of this color really quick. Once you get right below the all-time high, the resistance at the all-time high, you usually get a slight consolidation, and then something pushes it over the edge in a massive jump. And then we come down and retest another level, and then we resume off there. That happens all the time. So let me show you what that looked like here. So here it was a little bit different. We had a lot steeper of a line here. And then I actually don't think I drew it in here, but you had an uptrend. So a rising trend line, I should say. So you have... it's much steeper, much shorter, much more shallow, but you see that it did break down, consolidated, bounced around a little bit, came up, and then we got to the all-time, right below the all-time high. It consolidated a bit, and then it pushed up, and then something happened. We fell down again. So we're seeing what seems like a triple pullback. Now, again, remember this line that we're just breaking through. That's a critical support level. I have that green horizontal support level that we're breaking through, that if we close below before 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, then that's going to be flipped into a red line for resistance. But you can kind of see here, if you follow along, from the initial sell down, we have this ascending trend line that creates this triangle, and we see the same price action. So as soon as, it's kind of interesting, I actually thought to myself, as soon as we didn't come back up right away and break up to new all-time highs, I had a feeling we were going to see a somewhat prolonged consolidation. Wasn't really sure if it was going to be a week or 2 weeks or longer, but I drew in this triangle, and I thought, okay, if we can, we bounced around. This is the 8-hour time frame. We bounced a couple of sessions along this 8-hour, kind of came below, wicked below, but then we really sold off down below. Broke this resistance, came back above, bounced around up here, and then when this morning it looked like we were going to see Bitcoin finally have something that could push it towards its a new all-time high, consolidating below and then pushing out. But obviously that didn't happen. So something is going on, and the markets overall, especially the Nasdaq, the growth side of the market, had a pretty awful day today. So even after testing being positive for the day, so something's going on. Now this other blue line that I have right here is a cloned prime trend line that comes all the way back to the start of the bull market. So there's actually, if I could find it right here, it's actually this line from the bull market, from the start of the bull market, from the low, actually from the last cycle. And I've been cloning that all the way up, and every time we get to a new all-time high, I put it there. And so you can actually see that from this all-time high, right? It's I haven't added it up here to this all-time high yet. But what I also did was I cloned the trend line, and I brought it down to go off of this little near-term peak. And you can actually see that it has provided resistance and support and support and support. We've broken through that as well. So that's a pretty big deal. Now I'm going to highlight more strongly this trend line and get rid of some of these others, reduce them down. Because now I think what we're looking at potentially doing is testing this descending trend line from the all-time high in February 21st. And that has, you can see we broke through it. It's provided resistance first, then support, and now we're going to come down and test that. That could be a pretty important level. I'm not going to say that it's more important than our horizontal resistance, but it is potentially an important level. So we have to be watching over the next few sessions for Bitcoin's price action. I've explained in previous videos what's been going on my chart. I have this red box, and this red box exists because coming off a 30% pullback, you can see anything between a 50% to a 200% move to the upside following the 30% drop. So this is a little over 100%, about 116% from the 30% pullback to this all-time high that we just had on March 13th and 12th. I'm sorry, on March 13th. And so for that reason, I mentioned in a previous video that I was not comfortable moving this red box yet, because this red box was a signal to me that we could be a little overextended and due for another 30+% pullback. So it's entirely possible that that is going to happen now. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Bitcoin's price action. But I have this green buy zone right here, which measures 30 to 40%. And you have to recognize your risk all the time. But 30 to 40% from here, you're looking at, something between 37,200 and 43,200. And so that's a level to watch. That's something to watch. You also would have right here a confluence at the top of the buy zone with one of my trend lines that goes back to the January 8th all-time high. So that could be an important level. You've got some horizontal support in there as well. Is it going to get there? I'm not sure. What we're seeing here looks like what happens a lot of times in these pullbacks where, let me pull back to this level really quick, where you kind of have a bit of a horizontal level. Oops, that's a really awful trend line. You have this kind of horizontal level that gets broken through, and then it looks like the end of the world to a lot of people. So, but then that ends up being like a perfect buying opportunity. And you kind of see that here too. It's the one that I mentioned here, breaking down through the triangle. Everyone feels like it's the end of the world. Here, it kind of looks like that. Because if you really look at it up here, we didn't really have an initial sell-off to push through that broken line. So it's entirely possible that this right here is going to be that sell-off that makes people lose their minds and think that Bitcoin is going to zero. So what do I think is going to happen? It's possible that we could see price come back down to this green box, the 30 to 40% pullback, a triple pullback. I don't remember ever seeing that happen in previous cycles. But it's possible we could see that. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. So just be prepared for that possibility. What I suspect might happen is we might bounce off this support, consolidate underneath this level, maybe bounce back above, and then eventually come up, consolidate below our all-time high, and then take off. And honestly, realistically, this process could take anywhere between 30 to 60 days. What's really interesting to note is that we are only 11 days into this, into our 11th day into this consolidation from the all-time high. And so, if you're looking at potentially 30 days is going to be April 12th. 40 days will be April 22nd. 50 days, we're looking at the May 2nd, and 60 days? Well, we're going to go way over here. 60 days, you're going to be looking at May 12th. So we could be in this consolidation for the long haul. And I think that's pretty important because if you're following the pi cycle indicator, I don't have that available right now in my chart, but if you have the pi cycle indicator, it's actually really close already right here. And so it looks like we're going to have a prolonged consolidation in order for the pi cycle to not have the risk of crossing before what seems to me to be at the earliest late July, but more likely into September for the peak, and no later than late November or early December. So we've got a range of things that are possible here. But always be aware of your downside. You can see Bitcoin is just, again, you can see it right here, continuing to be volatile. If I go to a 3-minute, you can just look at what's been going on here. So that is what's going on with Bitcoin. Be prepared for the downside. Bitcoin is not crashing. It's pretty amazing to be able to say that Bitcoin has was up 2,700, is now down over 2,000, and we're talking about, what is that, a 6% swing, but Bitcoin is not crashing. This is perfectly normal for Bitcoin, and honestly, it's probably better in the long term to shake out as many weak hands as possible. So don't be freaked out. Just be aware of your downside risk. If you have any leverage in this position, if we get down to these levels, you're going to want to lighten up that position a little bit. And if you have funds available, this would be a great buying opportunity down in this green box. But obviously, what people always make the mistake, they see it selling down, they're too afraid to pull the trigger. Everybody always waits until price is rising and they FOMO in. You don't want to do that. So got to keep a level head, pay attention to your levels, and have patience. This is going to take a few more months to ride out. We're only in March. As I said, we're not going to see the cycle top until at the earliest late July, but more likely September, and possibly as late as November or December. So we've got a lot of time to wait out. We haven't even seen even remotely close to the all-time high yet. So keep it together, and that's that. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and like and subscribe if this was helpful to you. See you next time.